you got to remember that it's not that deep. It's not that serious. And I think when people realize that we're just supposed to have fun, have a good time, I think that's when the people around you are the most authentic.
This is Champagne is Also a Band podcast. One songwriter, one song. I'm Sven, your host for a journey into the music of Champaign-Urbana. Recorded in the Blue Box studio with a songwriter from the Champaign-Urbana music scene, past or present. Champagne is Also a Band podcast is proud to be a part of the Champagne Showers podcast network. Welcome to Champagne is Also a Band podcast. Today, I have Roseli, and you may know Roseli from such bands as Venus Overdrive and also her solo work. So, Roseli, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
So today we're going to be listening to your song, Split Ends, off of your recently released single. Without further ado, let's listen to the song.
The best ones out of that.
I'll try. I'm really flimsy on the B minor chord.
No, you're fine.
Hello, old friend. It's been a while since we have talked. Split ends. It's been a while since we have talked at all. Old friend, I hate that I let you go, even though I tried to kill you and shove you down my throat. Don't take it personal, the choice was ethical. If only you'd seen the way they talk about us. Little bitch, big boy, pushover. I don't like her anymore. I don't like you anymore. Changes for the best, want them to be impressed. So I dumped you down the drain just to fix our little mess. Why be a Mary Sue? Why be as weak as you? So now I am selfish and cold, but at least back then I had a heart of I don't really care about those things anymore. I don't really care about the things I adore. Now I'm a big bitch, little whore, full of shit. I hate her even more. Oh, I hate you even more. Stupid interventions is being me out of the question. Wow, how could this all be so hard? Old friend, you're getting quiet. Come on, please come out. I can't slow down myself. I need you to hold me down. Hands clenching, my scalp trembling. You're my only ticket, oh, old friend. It's been a while since we have talked. Split ends. It's been a while since we have talked at all. Old friend, I don't know what I should do, but I guess it doesn't help that I am you.
That's it? Mm-hmm. I bet.
Welcome back. So, of course, my first and favorite question to always ask is, what came first? Was it the music or the lyrics?
It was kind of both. I never start writing with an instrument. I only start writing just singing out whatever comes to my brain. That first line, hello, old friend, was actually what I just sang when it came to my head. It was supposed to be filler words, but it actually just ended up sticking around, and it fit the song kind of well. So my songwriting process is usually I have a melody in my head. I use filler words, and if that kind of fits the vibe, then it'll just stay in there. I'd say like 50% of my songs are filler words, actually.
Do they stay filler words is the question.
Yeah, I would say so most of the time. Since being with Venus Overdrive, I've had more time to actually think about my songs and think critically. I think that maybe now it's a little more less filler wordy, but it always starts like that, for sure. And then later comes the instrumentation.
In the process of using filler words, it sounds like sometimes they just stick around. Has that ever been something that, when you start with those filler words, does that end up influencing the type of song or not even the type, but should I say like the narrative of the song?
The context?
Or context.
I think that with every song I write, I can never really write a song that I haven't experienced. So I think whenever I do write a song, it's usually because I'm feeling some sort of intense emotion and I feel like I need to write about it. I think when I was first starting to write this song, I just really was angry at myself and the world. So there could have been a bunch of things I could have written this song about. So when I started singing Hello Old Friend, I thought that could maybe think about, maybe a falling out I had with a friend, or maybe the reflection of oneself. And that's kind of what it ended up being. Yeah, that's kind of how it made its way around. I feel like it usually starts off with an initial emotion that I'm feeling.
It's interesting to me that we'll have songs that are written specifically about relationships, and dealing with other people, yes, is difficult, but I think the relationship that we have with ourselves is possibly the most complex and difficult, even though technically you should have the best insight into what you're thinking, but yet somehow...
Sometimes you just don't. Sometimes you just don't. I completely understand that.
So was there a sense at that time that you wanted this to be about you, or did you continue kind of pursuing it as two disparate people that you then decided it's like, yeah, okay, but this is really just me this whole time?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's such a deep question. I like that. I think I found out pretty early on that I thought it was going to be about me. I actually wrote this song during the pandemic, I think February 2021. That was when we were all kind of solace. We were all pretty lonely in that stage. I found out very early on that I wanted to write a song about the perception of myself, because at that point I was experiencing a lot of self-loathing and I just didn't know what to do with that feeling. It
starts off with such, even before you begin recording, it starts off with such like self-doubt.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'm not sure I can get that B minor. And
no, because I was being real. I was being honest.
No, I got it. But it was one of those things where I was just thinking, I don't know, our own idea of, our own limitations and our wanting to, I don't know, fit in or even just have some impact that makes a difference even.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's almost something that it might get better, but I don't think it ever goes away. And maybe that's just me, but I'm like, well, I sometimes can shut up that voice a little bit more and say like, well, I'll just kind of go ahead without, trying to do it, kind of faking it.
Yeah.
Pretending you got it until you're already gone too far that you can't back out of it is usually my best method of dealing with things I'm insecure with. But I'm just curious about how you started off with the Hello Old Friend. I think it's really interesting that you bring in the concept of split ends, which to a certain extent is a very day-to-day, very, I don't know, can I say like menial or like, you know what I mean? Like it's like a standard sense of who you are or what you deal with. It's like, oh, I wash my face, or basically that also is something that is very usually, I don't brush my teeth. I brush my teeth alone. It's like, It's very much like that connection that you might have with just yourself, because it is that thing that you might be processing that you don't really tell everybody, talking about split ends. You might, that's fine. But I was just thinking about like such a small incremental thing that you wouldn't necessarily talk about with anybody else other than yourself. But I have whole conversations in my head, so I don't know if that's weird or if that's standard,
I have the same thing.
But I mean, like, whether it's to even just practice what I'm going to say when I finally have a conversation, imagining in my own head that there's another person responding back. And this is kind of that conversation, but not the initial stages. It's because you still, I don't know, this is going to get super meta. I'm sorry. I don't mean to, I feel like I'm just over processing this right now, which is kind of funny because that's what I do. As much as you're trying to distance yourself from yourself, you're still in a certain way having a conversation to kind of like a radar kind of pinging, like how far away am I from where I once was,
Yes.
like you're still sending out that signal to yourself, or I guess to your other self, to figure out how far you've gone, and then kind of the consequence of deciding to separate. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like I just totally talked way too much about that, but
No,
these
I
were
liked
things
it.
that were
It was
just going
cool.
through my head about, on that very kind of surface level of like, this is kind of, it's about that wanting to separate, but also, kind of realizing how far you are, and maybe you may not be able to get back to that person again. So when did you bring in the guitar? Because it manages to be, again, a very personal, like, because it's you in an acoustic, when it's singer-songwriter style, I guess I could say.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a very personal thing, and it's very much about you when you're doing that. So I'm curious about, when did the guitar part come in? And it's, in some ways, it's really simple. It's this, I think it's A major, B minor, and then you go to, which I love, is I guess it's a D minor.
Yes.
To like, which in that key, you could almost do it with like a G7,
Ooh,
like,
that'd be cool,
like
yeah.
because you had that nice F natural in there. Because that's what it kind of read, and I kept trying to do a G7, and I was like, but that's not it. But it's because it's got the A in there. Anyway, I geeked out a little bit.
Don't worry about
that.
it.
How did you decide on the guitar?
Well, I don't know if it was so much deciding the guitar. It was kind of like there wasn't any other choice. I don't know how to play piano. I don't know how to really produce anything. At that point, I just had a love for music and a crappy guitar. And that's what I had to work with. And I think it's almost reflective of kind of the song itself. It's kind of like the beginnings of what I feel in myself and what I could kind of start out with. But yeah, the guitar just made the most sense because it was in my room and I only knew like the main 7 chords.
It's interesting that because of the way that you use the chords, it's like A and then it's B minor, it's A and then it's B minor. It kind of gives this feeling of that flip-flop, of that, wait, is this me? Is this you? Is this me? Is this you? Back and forth. That's what
so
I keep
cool,
thinking
yeah.
about. And then kind of this chord that you're in D major, and then you're like, nope, D minor for like the cadence chord, and it has this like whoops, kind of like you've gone too far, and you're like, oh, oops, no, wait, hold on, and then you start over and you try again. I guess is what I kept thinking about with the chord structure. Was that, I'm just curious how that all came about.
Yeah, so with those chords specifically, like I said, I always write my melody and my lyrics first. I think when I eventually brought in my guitar that night, I wrote this in one night. I grabbed my guitar and I kind of saw what fit, but also at the same time, it was like, it was really representative of what I was feeling at that time. I didn't notice the flip-flop that you said. I thought that was really cool. However, the D minor was very intentional because at that point, I was just thinking about, I feel so hopeless and I feel like I'm never going to kind of get out of this. And I feel like the energy that the D minor kind of gives within the song, it almost feels like a sigh or like a, oh my gosh. And I do feel like that with that D minor, it felt very fitting.
I'm really interested in how you thought about, I want to say, your verse and your chorus structure, because it's not entirely clear. I mean, I kept thinking about how, like, the don't take it personal, the choice was ethical, I don't really care about these things anymore. Well, like the little bitch, big bore, a big bitch, little whore. I felt like those were kind of your return to the point of origin chorus in a way, like where you're kind of, the function of the chorus is being like this, either this inner voice or like an overall, almost like Sims kind of perspective of being able to view what all is going on. How were you thinking about using your words in this story?
So once I started kind of doing that first verse or chorus, I do feel like the structure of the song is a little odd. I've tried to make a live band version of this, and like writing what was the chorus and what was the verse was so confusing to me because it low-key just feels like a chorus, and a bridge, and a chorus. I don't know if there's anything specifically that could kind of give that away. When I started kind of realizing what this song was about, I guess I should clarify, the song isn't about who I once was and who I am now. The song's about who I am now, and if I were to digest and take all of the mean things people would say to me, try to become something that they would want me to be, that is who I would become. So I really used this song to try to convince myself to stay the person I am, because at the end of the day, people are just going to say whatever. they're going to find something else to complain about. And I think that's where I really get to the big bitch, little whore, where that reflection is something completely different with both verses or both choruses, however you want to call it. I really try to reflect what is being said about me now and what would be said about me if I were to change for others.
Yes. Okay. I appreciate that. I love how there's always, I can be very convinced that something is a certain way, and then to hear an additional layer. I'm kind of curious in that context, I want to call it a verse, the stupid interventions is being me out of the question.
Yes.
I was even thinking of that as people that were like, okay, you're just not the person that you used to be. And so that kind of intervention, but was there a different interpretation in your mind about the intervention for what people were saying?
I feel like the interventions part is basically just me describing, oh, well, what if, like, I do change myself? What if I don't really like the things I like? I will say, I feel like, so I wrote this when I was 19, like, I was 19 and a half, I guess, and I still very much felt connected to my high school years. And I feel like that was a mix of very amazing, but also very sad experiences. I think over COVID, I took the time to reflect, and I was like, oh, maybe some of those things that people were saying weren't actually, like, constructive criticism. I think that was low-key bullying.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, when I thought of interventions, I thought about not just them intervening in my personal space, saying, oh, you shouldn't be this way, but also myself digesting that and saying, well, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be the way I am. You know what I'm saying? So the intervention was me kind of trying to stop myself from being every aspect of my being.
So you add the line of, but I guess it doesn't help that I am you. Did you think at that point that people might have already kind of figured that out? Or I'm just curious because I had a little bit of the inclination that was kind of where you were heading with this, but you almost do that like as if it's the reveal at the end to kind of clarify all that had happened before. Where in the process did you kind of decide that was where you wanted to, or how you were going to do the reveal on that? And or even if that was the intention, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I didn't think that I needed to do a reveal at some point, but then I wanted to finish off the song kind of strong, and I was like, I don't really know what to put after this lyric. And I think I just ended with that. It was a really nice way of just reminding myself at the end of the day, like, this would all just be parts of me. It was a nice reminder, but it was also just a way to end the song on a final note, I guess.
Well, and especially since that section of the old friend, which is very reminiscent of your introduction verse, it has that kind of coming around full circle and kind of has a realization quality to it, especially since, well, whomever is doing the mixing or adding the effects, I noticed there was like definitely the space kind of opens up and there's a little bit more reverb just on your voice that kind of just gives you that echo back. I don't know. I almost want to say it's like when whatever in the movie where whatever that disguise or whatever just finally melts off the person and then it's just like, oh, it's that person all along. I felt like that final part had that moment. And I was just thinking about, was that a conversation you had with the engineer or? Yeah,
so the person who mixed and mastered this song is one of my friends back in Chicago. His name's Brat. He goes by Bamf Brat, though. He also produces, he sings, and he raps. Really awesome guy. In the past, I think since I was like 16, I've been collaborating with him on his hip-hop R&B tracks. It's a very different style from the rock music and the singer-songwriter stuff that I do now, but it works out really well. And I think from there, when I was 19, I finally found the courage to bring something up to him, like, hey, I was working on this. He's like, oh, wow, I really like it. He's like, I would love to help you, like, mix and produce it. And I feel like because it was really the first time where I had kind of a say in how it would sound, I kind of just let him do his thing on it, honestly. I mean, he very much kept it true to what it would sound like, just adding his own little touches. Like you said, the reverb on that was really cool. And I just really liked everything that he did. So shout out to him. I feel like without him, the song would not have come to life or even come out. Really, really great person.
Although I kind of mentioned it earlier, is like there's the conversation before and after. And I'm curious about the decision to keep those in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
Yeah, so I think that it's pretty reflective. It was not supposed to be in. I don't know if it was very authentic to what I was feeling, and it was very much myself. So I actually wrote this song on my own guitar. It's a Guild acoustic guitar. But when I was at his place, I pretty much sang the song to him, but I didn't have my guitar with me. He had this acoustic black guitar that had the Beatles' faces on it, and it was from Mexico, and that's what this is recorded on. And at that point, I was just, I think I was so scared because, like, I've never played another guitar before, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to mess up this B minor so terribly. And I was telling him as he was getting the mic ready, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of flimsy on the B minor. Like, I don't think it'll be good. And he was like, nah, bro, like, you got this. Just go for it. That's how it kind of ended up on there. And then after that, I feel like he's low-key my hype man. So he said, oh, bet. And I don't know, especially like the laugh at the end. It just kind of shows how unsure I still am, but how happy I am that I did it and that I'm ready for the next step. When he sent it to me, that was still kept in. And I thought about trimming it out and uploading it like that. But also, I don't know. It just really goes to show how authentic this song was and still is to me, especially in that moment. Because I wrote this song in 2021 and I showed it to him in 2022, which just goes to show how nervous I was throughout this whole process. I mean, and it was released in 2025. So I think that says everything you need to know.
Sure. Have you performed this out? Have you played this for other people, large groups?
And I still get nervous playing it every time. I have a few original songs now, but this one is probably one of the most nerve-wracking to play just because it's so honest and it's so raw and I don't really hold back with it. I first performed this song at IMC, the Independent Media Center in Urbana, and that was for the Midnight Market and open mic. I was so nervous, but it was received well. And I've showed a few friends it too, just like the recorded version, because by the time I got onto campus for college, it was recorded and mastered and everything. But the first time I actually performed it since it's been released, I can't oh wait, no, it was at the DIY venue Grandma's house. That's got to be the first time I performed it since it's been released, and that was so much fun.
What is it, and I guess this is just kind of a general question, I'm just like, what is it about the insecurity or just, it's probably just the vulnerability, but what is it about that brings a genuine quality to a piece of music, right? But the way that Brett did that, your vocal is so very forward in the mix that it's like it's right in your ears. You know what I mean? Like it's right there. And I think it's funny that you described this, you know, I almost want to say a little bit off-brand acoustic that had its own character because of its maybe deficiencies. I don't know, but there's just something about like the combination of all of that is somehow coming through. And I just, there's a few times in my life where I'm just like, I can't really put my finger on exactly what is the quality about that is appealing or touching, or I don't know what where it connects, you know? And I'm curious what you think about that.
I would say it just all feels so DIY. I mean, I recorded it. He doesn't but Brat has a home studio and it's like his PC and his monitors, all that good stuff, but it's in his bedroom. And then we obviously used his off-brand guitar. And then when I wrote it in my room at like 2 a.m. in the morning, it was just me and my guitar. And at that point I just moved, so like the room was so bare as well. And then just with me not holding back with my lyrics at all, it felt very DIY in that sense. Everything was authentic, and I don't know, it was just how it was meant to be, I guess.
Even though this is written from your perspective and may in a certain sense be autobiographical, I'm going to have you step back from that just a second, because I'm curious, what do you think, if this person were to continue, what do you think, I don't know how to ask this, but I always want to see, like, because this song is a snapshot of a particular time in a person's life. How do you see this person's, the end of this character, like, not the end, but like, I want to say like the final product, or what do you hope for this person, or what do you imagine that the rest of their story is like, given the context of this song?
Oh, okay. Are you talking about the insecure person or the person who is the manifestation of all the things and all the critiques?
But it's the same person, isn't it?
I guess so.
That's what I'm saying.
Very,
like,
very
I'm
true.
like, I'm just, because, you know, it's like what in the end do you envision this person like transforming into?
I think she just sounds so hopeless. I'm glad I didn't end up like this, but truthfully, I think I kind of imagine this person kind of shutting out her authentic self eventually. If I were to remove myself from this song and just purely think about all the heartache that's kind of going through this song, to be quite honest,
Right.
I think that this person, I mean, it's really like there's two ways it could either go down. She could either down spiral and let all those things really get to her and just kind of be a not so authentic version of herself, or she could pick herself back up and she can kind of stop caring about what everyone else thinks and she could empower herself. And I think that'd be nice. I think it's really hard for me to tell, honestly, because I feel like both sides are just so prominent within the song.
I just thought maybe I would just tell you what my favorite part of the song is. There's a few spots. I mean, one is like you have some really nice, I want to say melismatic, but it's melismas of like where you're doing a run of a scale when you're talking about something kind of falling apart. It's almost like this wavy. I'm doing some note runs, but that's not the thing I'm going to name. But I love that.
Thank
just
you
as
so much. That's so sweet.
But I actually just like the nature of, I want to call this the second verse, changes for the best. I want them to be impressed, but it's really that those last two lines of use something that can be, I guess you could say, almost like a cliche, but the way that you do it, I really like. It's now I am selfish and cold, but at least back then I had a heart of, and then you just launch right into, I don't care about those things anymore. And it has this, I don't know, it has this really nice quality of like, how do I say this? I'm not sure. It's like you're going to find that soft and warm thing that we're all comfortable with, which is like kind of that cliche of like the heart of gold, or something that you can, it's comforting sometimes, cliches, like, because it's something we're familiar with. But I like the fact that you head that way as if you're going to just kind of rest on that. And then before you finish the phrase, you just are like, I don't care about those things anymore, And I think in some ways, I think that really kind of gets to the heart of what this song is about.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I definitely felt like the heart of gold line was a little corny, but I felt like it was also reflective of myself. You know what I'm saying? And then this song is basically a conversation. It's about the person who I am and the person who I thought I'd be if I were to internalize people's critiques and such and such. In that part specifically, I really wanted to express what it would be like if I were to talk to myself. I feel like this other person who I'm not would probably cut me off or probably call me a little corny or a little cheesy. But that's just who I am at the end of the day. Towards the bridge, at the very least, when I'm singing stupid interventions as being me out of the question, that's where I guess my current self, even who I was when I was like 18, I still associate with her a lot. That's where I kind of stick up for myself.
I guess I'm going to turn the tables and say, well, what is your favorite part, or what is your favorite line in the song?
In terms of my favorite part of the song, I feel like it's kind of hard. I think I have two favorite parts. I do want to say, first and foremost, I worked really hard on these lyrics when I was like about 19, but I don't know if I really think they're all that great. I feel like I've grown so much as a songwriter. So the lyrics that I'm going to point out, or the parts, I'm primarily a songwriter first and foremost. So it's going to be about the lyrics that I like. I will say with these two lines, I guess, I don't think they're particularly really conveyed the best, but I guess the memory of it I like. So the first one I'll talk about is that I don't really care about those things anymore. I don't really care about the things I adore. I feel like especially one of the things that made me write this song was I used to get teased a lot for like my interests in school. I was into really like nerdy stuff. I think I will talk about this later in the podcast, but I love comic books so much. I love animations, and I feel like now and like emo bands, like those were always, I feel like now all those things are very cool, but back in like the 2010s, it wasn't something you'd want to be so vocal about. And I think when I entered high school, I was just really excited about all my interests and full of life. I don't know why, but that's kind of who I was. So saying that I don't really care about those things anymore, I don't really care about those things I adore, I feel like I'm the kind of person where my interests are so heavily embedded into who I am. And that's still very true today. Like, for example, I love music, and I think that that's a big part of my identity, being a songwriter. So I just really like that I pointed that out, that if I were to manifest people's critiques into being a different version of myself, I wouldn't even like the things that make me me. So I really liked that part. And then I guess the second part that is probably my favorite, it's like the second to last part where I say, please come out, I can't slow down myself, I need you to hold me down, hands clenching my scalp, trembling. I think that really sticks out to me because I lived through that experience. I mean, when you're experiencing self-loathing, you're kind of not only emotionally kind of exhausting yourself, but it's very physical. Like when you have any sort of anxiety or panic attack, that's kind of what that feels like. And I feel like throughout the whole song, I'm kind of just talking about my feelings, but in this one, I feel like I perfectly encapsulated what I was doing in that moment, what I was doing in my room, in the bathroom. I was just like kind of crawling in a little ball and just like trembling. It's not a good feeling. And I feel like once I wrote that down, I kind of took a second and I was like, I shouldn't be doing this to myself, you know? I'm my own worst enemy, and I shouldn't be making myself physically feel that way. So I'm really glad that once I wrote that down, I still obviously felt a sense of self-loathing, but at the end of the day, it kind of made me realize, at the very least, I shouldn't physically exhaust myself with all this. I feel like since writing this song, it's been very healing. I feel like also, we're going to talk about this too, but the music scene has helped me so much kind of find who I am and be comfortable with who I am. And I can very much say that I'm not this girl anymore. I mean, I am myself in the sense where I still love the things that I love and I'm pursuing what I like to do, but at the same time, I'm not the heavily insecure person I once was. And I think that that's pretty cool.
My last question is always, why did you pick this song to be the song you wanted to talk about today?
I think it shows so much growth. As much as I critique it for maybe not liking the lyrics or even the structure of the song being so simple, it very much embodies who I wanted to be and who I am becoming. This was the first song that I ever realized I was like, wow, I could put this on like an EP or something. I could release this to the world possibly. And I think it felt very fitting to start with this song. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. If anyone's experiencing self-loathing, please know you're beautiful just as you are. Be your authentic self. And there's people out there who love you. I completely understand being in that state where you feel like you're sinking, but it's going to be okay. And don't forget to reach out to those around you.
Champagne is also a band podcast is proud to support Jubilee Cafe. Jubilee Cafe is a free weekly meal program at Community United Church of Christ, 805 South 6th Street in Champaign, Illinois. Jubilee Cafe serves a home-cooked meal from 5 to 6:30 each Monday. Their mission is to feed hungry people by cooking healthy, delicious meals and by serving their guests restaurant-style with servers waiting on tables. Jubilee Cafe is open to anyone who cares to eat with them. Because food insecurity among students is so high, they serve students as well as others in and around the Champaign-Urbana community who struggle with hunger. Meals are free to all and will be served each Monday evening, located in the accessible lower level of the building at 6th and Daniel Streets in Champaign. For more information on the meal or how to volunteer, go to the Jubilee Cafe CUCC Facebook page or email them at jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. That's jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. Welcome back. So, of course, Roseli, I'm just wondering, do you have any favorite Champaign-Urbana music venues, past or present?
I love that you included past or present because I've been a part of the music community here for almost 4 years now, and a lot of my favorite DIY venues have come and gone. So I guess I'll start with local businesses. I really love Rose Bowl Tavern. I feel like they're so hospitable. I mean, I know it's run by a musician, it's run by artists. It just feels so perfect, and I've never felt more comforted and more welcomed in its space. It feels like a home almost. I think my first experience at Rose Bowl was performing with Venus Overdrive, opening for Kangaroo Court. That was so much fun. Such a good bill, and Boy Ponder and his friends were there too. Very talented people on that stage. But Rose Bowl Tavern is just so nice, so homey, so welcoming, and I definitely wanted to give them a shout out because they are definitely my favorite established venue here. I love them a lot. In terms of DIY venue, there used to be this venue called The Barn. They're still around, actually, in Chicago, called the Barn Production Group, and they're doing some really crazy stuff in Chicago. But back when they were just a small house in Urbana-Champaign, they were made up of like theater majors, theater sound techs, and like you could just really tell they ran a tight ship. It was such a fun time. I would go as either just a casual show goer or as a musician in Venus Overdrive, and they were really sweet, ran a tight ship. Loved them. But for current DIY venue right now, it has to go to the Treehouse. Kind of that similar thing is it's a venue ran by artists for artists type deal. I think, Dugan does like stage drops and she works really hard with that. And she has like there's like a wall in their basement that like she changes every time depending on the theme of the show. And then obviously Austin has all of his camera stuff going on, and same thing with Matt, he does photography there too. And then everyone also just makes like different types of posters. There's like 3 posters for each show. Savannah does such a great job with her collages. I know the Treehouse personally, so maybe that's why I'm a little biased, but they're all so talented, and you could just see the hard work that goes into running a show. It's so fun. Sorry, that was a really big answer.
No, that was perfect. I was actually just thinking about, knowing the people that are there does add to its charm,
yes,
if you will. Like, the amount of work that they're doing behind the scenes, because honestly, I don't know if everyone gives much thought about how much it takes to do a show poster. Mm-hmm. It may not seem like it's a big deal, but honestly, if you've seen a bad show poster, I mean, like, and it doesn't
totally
happen very often, but there's definitely, and I guess maybe pun intended, but there's definitely an art to it too, because looking at a show poster and not knowing what time something starts, or
that happens a lot here.
No,
a lot.
but the ability for people to, especially if they're making 3 for every show or multiples, for just making more than one is going above and beyond. And I was unaware of is it like a backdrop or
like a stage drop kind of,
but like painted, or like
it could be. You should get the Treehouse gang on here.
I mean, I guess if I knew somebody that knew them.
I'm here.
Okay.
But yeah, I think sometimes it's painted, sometimes it's like painted on a separate piece of paper and then like glued on there.
Whoa.
Dugan gets super creative with that kind of stuff, and I think they all do posters from my understanding too, which is probably why they could do so much. It's very much just a hub for creativity and art. I love that place.
So you've played at Treehouse and you've played at Rose Bowl. You did mention that the first time that you played the song that we talked about, Split Ends, you played at the IMC.
Yeah, so that was at the Midnight Market. I believe that the Midnight Market is run by a student. Her name's Jocelyn. Really sweet person, very awesome. The way how the Midnight Market worked was that there was a bunch of local businesses, vendors, either student run or just locals in the area. And then the IMC, because, it's a media center, there's so much to do with art there. There was a stage, and that's where I kind of took my first steps as Roseli, as like my own little solo project. It was a really great experience. I feel like, because there wasn't too much pressure where like everyone was staring at me, like, people were browsing like the clothes and the art, but I slowly started to see people come up for my set. I was getting a little crowd going, and I feel like that was probably the perfect setting to have my first kind of show, I guess. I'm doing that in quotation marks. You guys can't see that. But it was like my first set. And I thought that was a really great way to start it, just filled with creatives and filled with people who do have an appreciation for art and local businesses. I'm really into not only the music scene here, but also like the art and vendor community with small businesses. I think what happened was I saw something on Instagram about like, we're having like a vendor market with small businesses and artists. We're looking for singers for our open mic. Please join. And I remember talking to my boyfriend, Alex. He's also in Venus Overdrive. He's like, He's like one of my favorite musicians ever, and we're best friends. I kind of go to him whenever I have like sort of like a music question or something like that. I'm like, do you think I could do this? I was like, do you think I should do this open mic? He was like, hell yeah. He was one of the first people to listen to Split Ends too. He's like, you should perform Split Ends. I was like, I guess. And I just kind of went up there. And it was a lot of fun. He was there, my biggest supporter. And then slowly but surely, it wasn't just Alex in the crowd, it was other people too. So it kind of came about just because this community is just so great about promoting opportunities for artists, whether that be traditional artists or musicians. And I kind of just found my way there. I've performed at the Midnight Market twice now. It's a bit of a series. It's not just a one-time thing. They have stuff at Gallery Art Bar, at IMC, just pop-ups. They were also there at Canopy Club when I performed there too as Roseli. They had a little market outside. It was like a festival at Canopy Club that had local businesses and music.
So, of course, here's the big question. What do you think makes a good music scene?
I feel like everyone always says the people, but like, I think that's gotta be so true. I want to talk about Urbana specifically. What separates Urbana from other scenes, from what I've seen, is that I think everyone's so forgiving and so nice. Like, you don't have to be good to play here. You don't have to be good to sell art here. This is very much like the beginnings of everyone's project, from what I've seen, at least mostly for students. And I mean, I've seen it also with Urbana locals too, just like dipping their foot into a new music project or a new art project. I think what makes the scene is the people, but specifically they need to be open to people just giving it a try. I feel like probably in other scenes, maybe like Nashville or even Chicago sometimes, it feels like you have to be good at something or you're doing this for a living. And maybe that's the case sometimes, but I think you got to remember that it's not that deep. It's not that serious. And I think when people realize that we're just supposed to have fun, have a good time, I think that's when the people around you are the most authentic.
What do you think Champaign-Urbana could do better?
Man, I mean, I feel like I've definitely heard people say like, oh, there should be more genres in the music scene, like open it up. But I honestly feel like we have such a colorful one. There was this Chicago band that came down. They were like, wow, everyone's so nice here. Like, everyone kind of knows each other. And I was like, oh yeah, every artist knows each other here, regardless of like the music that they make, regardless of the background. I guess, I don't know if I can necessarily answer what Urbana could do better, but I've heard people say that there should be more accessible venues for different kinds of genres, and I would argue that there's a lot of that here already. I've seen so many post-hardcore bands. There's a whole jazz festival here that everyone's like, oh, we should have more jazz like in Urbana. There's a jazz fest here, guys. And like, there's pop music, I feel like you could find a whole lot here. I feel like I love the Urbana music scene too much to talk about what they could do better because, I mean, even then, I want to go back to my favorite DIY venues. All those venues also work so hard to create a safe space and an inclusive environment. And I have yet to go to a venue that doesn't promote that kind of space here. And that's also very important. I don't know if I can think of something that Urbana could do better because I feel like they're already hitting everything they can.
Champaign is also a band podcast is proud to support Exile on Main Street. Exile on Main Street, located in the old train station building at 100 North Chestnut Street in downtown Champaign, has been helping to build record collections since 2004. Carrying a wide array of new and used LPs, CDs, and video games. Exile on Main Street has something for just about any music enthusiast and old-school gaming devotee. Exile also hosts regular free live music shows on its stage, so be sure to check out their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for the up-to-date details on the next upcoming event. Open 7 days a week, they can be reached by phone at 217-398-MAIN. That's 217-398-6246. Welcome back. So, Roseli, what is your favorite non-musical thing or things?
Yes. So, first and foremost, before I am a musician, before I'm anything, I'd say I'm a really big fangirl. I feel like I don't just like something normally. I have to like it religiously. There's so many things I could talk about, but I specifically wanted to talk about comic books. I think comic books are so fun and so interesting, specifically Marvel and DC comics. How I got into that was growing up, my dad was a really big Marvel and DC fan. He would always have like really cool figures around the house, or he would, I think something that he told me, he said that growing up, when I was like a baby, he said that there weren't any if you think about how big Marvel Comics is now, there's like merch, you could find anything with like Spider-Man on it. He said that back when I was like born in the 2000s, there wasn't Spider-Man baby merch. In that moment, he would just give me like a pillow from his childhood that had Spidey on it. I feel like comics have been ingrained in me since I was a little girl, and I just feel like the stories are so inspiring.
So do you feel like that's something that you and your dad have maybe bonded over, like being that, like the love of comics?
100%. So it was recently my birthday this Saturday, what my dad and I did, all of my family members too, we went to the Spider-Man exhibit in downtown Chicago, Museum of Science and Industry, and I was the most obnoxious person you could ever meet at that time. There was just all these fun facts about Marvel Comics, just the history of Spider-Man and the different type of Spider-Man, and it was just really fun to be there with my dad. We were discussing about all the different statues there and stuff. It was just really great to nerd out with him. It's definitely something that we bond over a lot.
Is Spider-Man your favorite character?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a particular... I have a friend of mine that would be punching the air because I don't have a comic book mind. I don't know what it is. Like,
most people don't.
I mean, if you wanted to, honestly, if you wanted to get into Doctor Who, we could get into that. But that's
your
Star
thing.
Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who. I kind of nerd out about that, probably mostly Doctor Who. But
those are all valid. I haven't really explored those fandoms, but I have major respect for the people in them. They're a lot of fun.
I mean, they have some of the same kind of ingredients, right?
Overlap.
Like, there's a lore, there's stories of heroism, there's a morality play. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
Like, they all have these strong characteristics of also having like a big fan base of like very, very ravenous fans. What is it about Spider-Man that like appeals to you, that like stands out above? Because there's some very... Again, don't at me, but there's some very similar hero stories out there, and I'm just curious, like, what is it that specifically like captures? And then, as a sub question, like, what is your favorite? I want to say universe or Spider-Man variant. Yeah.
Hell yeah! I think I don't know how many. I'm unsure of how many people know this. But I really like Spider-Man for the simple fact that he was the first teenage superhero. And I think that that's so cool. So, okay, let's kind of get into it. So, until I think it was around, I don't want to get the date wrong, but when you think about superheroes like Superman, Batman, they're all adults and they're all going through adult problems. But when the time that Spider-Man came out, he was the first kind of centric hero to be a teenager. And for a comic book fan base that was pretty much mostly teenagers, that really resonated with audiences. So much so where like the only other teenage superhero was a sidekick who was Robin, if you know Batman. Right. Robin. And I think that kind of seeing his whole journey in the comics, he mostly goes from teenager to university. That's like his main thing. I think that his problems just are so authentic and so real. I mean, if you like see the movies even, you could just see the kind of shit that is just thrown his way. His uncle died, his aunt is dying, he can't get the girl, he's having trouble in school all the time, and he can't make his point that he's just a normal guy. And I think that out of all the superheroes, he probably has the hardest struggles, I would say. And I think that that's the most resonant. Also, just growing up as a nerd, I kind of resonated with that as well.
Favorite variant of Spider-Man?
I really wish that this variant got more love. So there is a Puerto Rican Mexican Spider-Woman. Her name's Spider-Girl. And I was really, when the Spider-Verse movie got announced, I was like, oh, I'm so ready to see her. And she wasn't there. I think that she's probably my favorite one just because I kind of reflect onto her a little too much. I'd say that there was this Spider-Man show, I forget which one it was animated, but she was very much like the tomboy-esque girl in the show, and I feel like growing up I was also a bit of a tomboy, and just kind of seeing that representation too. I mean, when you look at most comic book heroes, they're mostly white, and like it's just it's just nice to see a woman in that category, you know, just alongside everyone, and she was just super cool too. I really liked her design a lot.
I think episode 79, like Brandon Washington was talking about when he first saw the preview for Black Panther, and it's like he was so excited because, you know, how often can someone I guess, see themselves represented in like popular media.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, because and then that was when he reached into his bag and pulled out the Black Panther mask.
Oh, that's
and
so
No, I'm
cool.
just kidding. I'm teasing.
What? No, I so believed you.
I'm sorry. But that would have been hilarious. I mean, that's what our stories and what our art should do, is like help
Yeah.
us see ourselves better and help others see us better as well. So
Yeah.
I appreciate getting more into understanding, the Marvel and DC universes, and like, because as I said, it's never been something that I've been totally into, but I've been kind of sucked into some of those worlds and finding out all, like, with them having some of the, like, Spider-Man's had such a long history.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the earlier, not super early, but I'm not going to say it, but 60s maybe, I think, maybe, I don't know. I'm going to cut that out because as I said, I have a friend that would punch the
I think
air.
it may be 60s or 70s. That should be the silver age of comics, but I'm unsure which
That makes
year.
sense because
Golden Age was like Superman. Silver, I believe that's 60s, 70s. I could be wrong though, guys.
well, because I was just thinking there's a whole thing about the naming conventions of super, like, it'd be like blah blah man, blah blah man, blah
Yep.
blah man. And so I guess I was just thinking that was closer to that, because Superman was like the 40s and etc. But wow, I kind of want to totally keep nerding out, but I don't want to take all of your time, because I'm just enjoying geeking out about this and about your song. And so,
Oh, thank you.
like, Roseli, thank you so much for being on the show and telling me about your song Split Ends and the Champaign-Urbana music scene, and of course your favorite non-musical Spidey thing.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for just listening. I think that this was such an awesome opportunity that you bring to Champaign, so this was so much fun. Thank you for listening to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. This is Roseli reminding you, great music is out there. Go find it where you live. That's a wrap.
Champaign is also a band.
You almost have an NPR voice. It's so good.
South Beaker on the inside.
There's a jazz fest here, guys.